We're going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube, and also rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports. What's going on, everybody? Happy Christmas Eve and Merry Christmas to all. Thought right now would probably be the best time to record and go live a little bit. Kids are asleep. Perfect time. So just going to try and crank something out just before the holidays. And also maybe you're listening to this as you're wrapping up some gifts, wrapping up some of your kids' gifts, your own gifts, other people's gifts, whatever it is. Just Merry Christmas to all. Happy holidays for those that don't celebrate. And yeah, we got a jam-packed show. Bears are finally not playing someone within their division. So I was actually really excited for this because now I'm going through like a full preview, right? The other previews that we've had kind of talked a little bit about the opponents, but it's been a lot of the same old, same old. So we have a lot of excellent stats that we're going to be walking through today and a lot of really cool stuff that we're going to be breaking down. But also, I want to talk a little bit about the rumors, the things that have been going on, and just to kind of talk a little bit about it. And one of those is Ben Johnson, where Ben Johnson, it was reported by Courtney Cronin from ESPN. And I'm a big Courtney Cronin fan. I've talked about this last season too. Like everything that she was talking about was what was happening. She's very plugged in. She understands what's going on in the Bears organization and talked and just kind of like backed up what other insiders were talking about, where it does seem like Ben Johnson will be interviewing or have a chance, be a candidate for the Chicago Bears job. So it doesn't mean that he's interviewed or anything like that. It just kind of all signs point to he's going to want to take an interview. And then as we all know, what Ben Johnson has talked about is that if he takes an interview, he's actively interested in this job. He's not going to interview with everyone, only the jobs he actually has some sort of interest in. So if this is all true and he's actually going to be a candidate for the Bears, it's exciting times. So that is something that I love to see. Probably later on, right after the holidays and everything, I'll do a full breakdown of Ben Johnson, talk about why he's so special, what are all the different stats that he also provides, why is he kind of this next, why are people saying that he might be the next Shanahan, the next McVay, the next person that is building offense, like he then creates his own tree that people then get poached from, right? Why is he that special? But it's exciting, right? It's good news rather than bad news. At least they're not saying, well, Bears, y'all aren't even going to be a candidate for him. No, people are saying Bears will be a candidate because there's a lot of questions just because him talking about leadership, ownership, and things like that. Now, the McCaskies, Poles, Warren all need to be as good as possible, but it's at least nice to hear some good news. Also, Sam out in the comments, Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you too, Sam. Like, hope you're doing well. But yeah, we have a good game to be previewing. Let's talk first, as we always do, right? Injuries, opponents, offense, defense, special teams, who has the edge, and then last our game predictions, which I got perfectly correct, which I'm still proud about that. 1 out of 16? Or 1 out of 15. So let's flip over to the injuries and talk a little bit about the injuries. And also, too, as I flip over to this, Broski, what's good, my friend? It has been a while. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to your family, everything. Hope you've been well. Yeah, it has been a while. It definitely has been a while, my friend. So it's awesome seeing you out here. But let's go into the injuries, shall we? So the big injury news that came out this week, because everybody was all over Braxton Jones when he got injured. Now, the big thing with Braxton Jones goes down with a broken ankle. Now, here's the thing. Broken ankle, still bad, but it's not as bad as I think what a lot of people thought, just because you have everyone around him and thinking that it's this really bad injury. It's still not a good injury, right? You don't want your players breaking ankles out there, but it's at least something that appears that he can at least recover from and get back get back on field next season. But he's done for the rest of the season. That's one of the biggest injuries, because also, just to kind of like wrap up Braxton Jones's injuries, or his entire season, he ended with the third best run block win rate according to ESPN, and also was the 19th highest graded offensive tackle according to PFF with a 77.4 grade. But here's the flip side, right? There's a but here. But he allowed the seventh most penalties, or he received the seventh most penalties, which was good for 99th out of 133 qualifying tackles. He allowed 5 sacks, which was 105th out of 133 qualifying. I think it was offensive linemen in general. Also 26 total pressures allowed, which was 102nd out of 133 players. So yeah, he's got, so there's the good, and then there's that. So some grades, systems like that, that's what it is. But also too, when we watch the tape on Braxton, right? To me, it's still the same. Braxton's the new age Charles Leno of this team. Can you get better? Yes. Can you get worse? Yes. He's that middling player that he's not going to cause you to lose games, but he's not going to cause you to win games. He's that awkward middle ground that we have out here. So wanted to at least call that out. That's my feeling overall. But yeah, and then actually too, Broski said it in the chat. Braxton, Tevin, out of here. Tevin is most likely, my guess is he's probably not going to play. We're going to see the Tuesday injury report. I don't have it yet, but Tevin did not participate with his calf injury. And also Brad Biggs from the Chicago Tribune reported that kind of just, he does not expect Tevin Jenkins to be re-signed. Like, I don't have the exact quote, but basically don't expect Tevin Jenkins to be re-signed to the Chicago Bears. It really did feel like, because as we all know, Tevin is a very good offensive lineman, but for some reason, some unfortunate reason, seems like every single game he's injured with something. It was the calf this time. It might be the quad. It might be the ankle. It might be the back, right? It's all these. He's just had an injury-plagued, injury-riddled career, and it's just unfortunate, but most likely, like, you can pretty much put it in pen, he's not going to be back with the Chicago Bears. But also other people that did not participate on Monday: Elijah Hicks, Travis Homer, Tavarius Moore, Amen Ogbamiga, and also Javon Dexter limited, and Doug Kramer limited as well. Now, y'all know my opinions on Doug Kramer. Doug Kramer, I think it's cool to have an offensive lineman at fullback, but he doesn't really bring you anything when he's playing out there at the fullback position. But yeah, big one to look at, just Javon Dexter. Is he actually going to be out there? In my opinion, y'all already know, like, the Bears haven't been able to be that good. Javon is part of your future. I would just take it easy on him because you want him to be fully healthy. You don't want anything bad. It's a knee injury. You don't rush him out there, because that is your future at the defensive tackle spot, or at least one of those defensive tackles at that spot. So also too, J2K, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you. And also Sam saying Braxton has 1 year left on his rookie deal. Correct. So he's not going to be a rookie. He's not going to be a free agent this year, but the following year. So we at least have 1 more year after this year. So that's where, like what we've talked about, could potentially draft an offensive lineman. And also, I misspoke last episode. Will Campbell from LSU is not 6'4", he's 6'6", or listed at 6'6". So I was, yet again, not in full draft mode yet. But yeah, I wanted to correct myself with that. So, but yeah, offensive tackle, there's a lot of offensive tackles if we wanted to grab one, because yeah, Braxton has an extra year. You can develop one, because not all of them hit the ground running, which we'll talk about one, Charles Cross, in a little bit. But that's about the injuries for right now. Let's flip over to this opponent preview. So the opponent preview overall, and I do need to change my Matt Eberflus one, but I was like, hey, you know what? We've had the same graphics all year. We're going to keep Flus as a reminder. But this opponent that we're going against, the Seattle Seahawks, they're a pretty darn good team. They're not great by any stretch of the imagination, but they're just a good, solid team. They're 8-7. They're second in the NFC West, but also, according to DVOA, they're the 18th best team in the NFL. The Bears, 25th, believe it or not. I feel like we're much worse, but I think DVOA must be like, hey, they're losing big to the NFC North. Everyone does that. It's like, yeah, but did you forget what the 49ers did to us? Did you forget that we've lost a lot of big games pretty easily? I think that we're all farther down than other analytics might be about our beloved Chicago Bears. But let's talk about this offense versus Mike Macdonald's defense that we're going to be playing against, because Macdonald has been kind of regarded as a top defensive mind in the NFL, goes over to Seattle, and quite frankly, I've been impressed. I know when we were previewing the Seahawks, I was saying I didn't think that they were that great, and it depends on what this new head coach, because you had Steve Carroll. You had Pete Carroll as their head coach, who was a really good leader, the cliche leader of men out there. And this defense has been very good when you're just simply looking at their grades. Love and Bryant have been phenomenal safeties for them. Love being a number 9 rated safety according to PFF, and Kobe Bryant being rated the 20th highest graded safety according to PFF as well. Then you look at the corners. Reek Woolen, very good, very large cornerback, and also Devin Witherspoon from the Illinois, very, very good. So you're talking about Job as really kind of the only weak link in this secondary. Very good secondary. And then also on the interior of this defensive line, Jaron Reed, just a good D tackle. He's always just solid, playing very well for the Seattle Seahawks. He's PFF's 23rd highest graded defensive tackle. And Leonard Williams, finding the fountain of youth in his age 30 season, putting together one of his better seasons, the 5th highest graded defensive tackle in the NFL, and has an 84.8 grade. The defensive ends, not as great with Derek Hall, who a lot of Bears fans wanted in the second round and hasn't played too great. These defensive ends are really their weak spot, because also Nwosu just hasn't had a great season, 63.3 PFF grade on the year. But even when you ignore the grade, yet the defensive ends are definitely the weak spot. And Ernest Jones, a linebacker that they traded for from the Los Angeles Rams, just a solid player. But their rookie Tyrese Knight out of UTEP that they drafted in the 4th round, playing halfway decent. But really, this defense is a lot better than I think people were expecting. McDonald was able to bring them together. That's what a good defensive coordinator does. So that's the thing. This defense is good. And when you look at the metrics too, 7th highest expected points contributed by this defense, and 10th in EPA per play allowed for this defense as well. So very good. Even though when you look at the numbers, they're 17th in yards per game, which, yeah, okay. It's smack dab in the middle, but the defense is better than what the numbers, than this basic stats talk about. Also, when you look at it a little bit more, they're 16th in passing yards allowed, but they're 10th in points contributed by their passing defense, and 11th in EPA per pass. But then also in their running game, this is where they're the weakest. 18th in yards per game, 23rd in yards per carry, and 11th in expected points contributed by the rushing, and 18th in EPA per rush. So the run defense is technically the weak link, you would say, but are we going to be able to run the football? Probably not. The way that Swift's been running just has not been good. And Broski out there saying, how do you like the Bears' new running back, DJ Moore? Yeah, right? The new running back, DJ Moore, the thing that I don't like about it is it does feel like they're just trying to keep Moore happy, right? Like, hey, here's your carries. As long as you touch the ball X number of times. It feels like a challenge in a video game. It really does, where they're like, how do you keep your very volatile, like your cranky wide receiver happy? Well, he needs to at least touch the ball X number of times, and then he'll be happy. If not, he'll be sad. And it just feels like that's kind of how it is with DJ Moore. I don't like all the plays with DJ Moore anymore. I thought it was kind of cool when you do it for like a week, but now not so much, especially when you have Roschon Johnson back. When you didn't have Roschon, yeah, I could kind of get it, but now Roschon's back, give it to him more, right? If you don't like the way that Swift's running, don't hand it to your wide receiver, hand it to your other running back. Now, you're already giving him a lot of kind of screens and other plays like that with DJ Moore, but not a big fan of it at all. That's definitely my feeling. Also, since I was looking up different stats for Braxton Jones, fun fact, ESPN Analytics says that the Bears have the 6th best run block win rate percentage. Just interesting, because when I watch them, it doesn't look that great, but they might be also faulting Swift for always trying to bust it out to the outside and everybody's trying to block in. So that might be part of it. But yeah, just wanted to throw that out there as well, that ESPN Analytics like this run blocking line. And also, for those that are watching, you can see that PFF likes it too, since everybody's like in the top 20. So just saying, right? Not just saying, just stating stats out here. But also too, another thing I want to just bring up, this team that they're going against, the Seahawks, they're the 8th best at pressure percentage at 24.2% pressure rate. And also, they're about mid-range when it comes to blitzing, 22.8%. And then also, too, they have allowed, even though that they have a pretty good pressure rate, they're still allowing people 2.85 on average time to throw, which is 23rd. So last week, we saw Caleb Williams hold it for around 2.91 seconds. Now, they might want to try and keep more of that holding the football longer. But like I said, at the very end of the show, during the post-game show, I did feel like the reason why they were doing that is because they were down by, 3 scores very early on. So because of that, they had to take deeper shots. They kind of switched up the game plan. We're no longer really doing some of those shorter passes out there. So that's the feeling. That's the feeling overall. And yeah, Broski's saying these analytics are a joke and watch the games. Yeah, I think that's the big, what you said about the O-line not moving anyone. That I feel is the biggest issue that they have for sure, because whenever we watch that tape, whenever we do our tape watches, it's definitely they're in place, but then they're not moving anybody like we see other lines do. They can get in the way, but even then, I don't really trust Coleman Shelton one-on-one with some players. So just wanted to state it at least. But let's talk about how this offense can win. Like I said, they do have an opportunity to win on the ground. But as we know, this could be Swift might either be on his game or not on his game. And majority of the time, he's not on his game. My feeling, like, you want to try, what's good at least from this is you don't want to be running up the gut, because they got Williams and they have Reed. So 2 good defensive tackles. And also, too, my guess is Tevin Jenkins is probably not going to be out there. So you're going to have Jake Curran again as that left guard. So maybe Swift busting it out to the outside like he always does. Maybe it pays dividends. But I still fall in the same bucket that I did last week and the week before. I love the idea of just creating more competition with this running game. Give it to Roschon Johnson. Have these 2 running backs kind of duke it out a little bit just to kind of show the different running styles. It worked really well when they did that before. But now, when it started to work and they gave Roschon like 10 carries, then they went back to the whole like, hey, Roschon, you just get like goal line carries and just like 1 yard carries or just 1 carry a game. And they removed it. To me, give him a chance. Let him run the football, because then when he's out there, they don't just go, oh, it's a pass play, right? Keep him in there, not just for those 3rd down plays. That's my feeling. That's what I would do with this running game. But then when you go over to how to guard against the pass, like we said, this is a good pass defense. I look at like a Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet was interviewed after the game, and he's like, he's done with all the good things. Like, what are some of the good takeaways from this game? Yeah, we are too. Like, we agree. But also we saw Cole Kmet's grade absolutely plummet, which I back that grade, especially because, like we said, when we first started reviewing tape, Cole looked really good. Then, just really, his play has completely dropped off. The past, basically the losing streak, essentially, his play has severely dropped off. So that is something that I think that he needs a game. He needs a bigger game than what he's been playing at. And I think this is a perfect game for him to at least showcase what he can do. But then also to whoever's on Job, that do what other teams do with us and Tyreek Stevenson. Whoever Tyreek is on, you throw it to that guy. Whoever Job is on, throw it to that guy. You have 3 receivers that should be able to beat them. Throw it to one of them, right? Whoever Job is on, throw it to that person. And then the last little thing that I want to just talk about is the offensive line and just the protection. Yet again, the interior is going to be the big question mark here. And quite frankly, it depends on how Jake Curran, in my opinion, is going to play, if he in fact is the person that is starting at the left guard. Because if he is, then yeah, you might want to keep a running back in there. Yet again, another reason to keep Roschon out there, probably a little bit more. Swift can run, he can pass block. But to me, Roschon, bigger running back. I like the idea of just kind of keeping them on their toes a little bit more. Put Roschon in there more. That is my feeling overall. Also, Muck, what is good? Bear down. Merry Christmas to you as well. So hope you're doing well. But now, let's go into the matchup to watch out for and the X factor. So the matchup that I'm looking out for the most. I'm going to say Matt Pryor versus Leonard Williams. Matt Pryor's been good this season. He's been better than what we expected because we just signed him. We signed him. He just turned 30 and didn't really expect him to even kind of make this team. And he's been your starting guard and he hasn't been horrific, right? That's our line, right? Have you been horrific? Well, he hasn't really been, especially since Nate Davis was supposed to be a lot better. And they were hoping Davis was going to do something, but Davis is like, nah, I'm good, man. I got my money. I'm done. So Pryor versus Williams to me is the matchup to watch out for. And the X factor. The X factor I'm going to put out there, I'm going to go with Cole Kmet because Cole has done nothing. You were talking about good corners, good safeties that we're going to be going against. If Cole can be a weapon, if Cole can be used, this makes it so that you don't have to just rely on whoever's going against Job. You don't have to rely on your receivers to specifically win. The tight end, you paid him all this money. He should be able to be someone that you can rely on. Cole Kmet is my X factor because we just simply haven't seen it, right? And it might also be because Cole, like I've said, he is a Chicago Bears fan. And a lot of us would feel the exact same way as he's playing. Just beaten down, tired, unenthusiastic, right? And that's how Cole has been playing. So hopefully he can put some stuff together. But now let's flip over. And actually one other thing I just want to call out. Darnell Wright is good at football. Darnell Wright has been a very good right tackle for us so far this year. And that is something that I think needs to be stated. Also, PFF grade 78.5, 16th highest graded tackle. Very good. Severely less penalized than our others, right? Still has some little growing pains and other things like that, but he's still a good player. And actually, I'm just going to pull up a little bit more of his stats too. Actually, and as I say that, this is why I check the stats. He's actually had the same amount of penalties, 7, and more sacks given up. Okay. But like I said, still stands. I think that Darnell has been playing a lot better. And yeah, even though that he's given up more sacks, it's more promising. It definitely is more promising overall. But let's flip over to the Chicago Bears defense, where the Chicago Bears defense has really gone off the rails after Matt Eberflus has left was fired from the team. But this defense, this offense that we're going to be going against, they're 14th in offensive yards, which is 336.4 yards a game. They are 22nd in EPA per play, 20th in EPA per pass, and 25th in EPA per rush. But when you just look at the normal stats, you have 4th in yards per game on the pass, which is 244.5 passing yards per game, like I said, which is 4th. And running, they are 30th with only 91.9 rushing yards a game. That's right, they're even worse than us. But don't let that sway you. They still have Kenneth Walker. They still have Zach Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker should be back. Well, just something to monitor. He's been a very good running back when he's been healthy, but he just has not been that healthy. He's played great. PFF has him as the 5th highest graded running back according to their grades, but Kenneth is just a slippery guy. You have to bring him down first time. He's a quick, shifty runner. And like I was saying before too, Charles Cross, he was their left tackle that they drafted, I think 10th overall from Mississippi State. And he was seen as this very, very, very good offensive lineman prospect. And for his first 2 seasons, was not good. And now he's having his breakout season. The 10th highest graded tackle, according to PFF, 83.3. But he has been very good. He's been that franchise left tackle that they were hoping he was going to be. And the reason why I bring this up too is just the level of patience that we need to have, especially with like a Darnell Wright. We always said, sometimes they boom in their second year, but sometimes it's a third season that they need to really kind of take that next level. And Darnell Wright has gotten better this year, but he hasn't been that gigantic boom as like, okay, this is the franchise guy, but not saying he's bad or anything, but that's the big thing, that third year can be a lot of times where they essentially boom and become great. But this offense, you're talking about the wide receivers, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith, and Jigba are the 2 people that are key. Tyler Lockett taking a step back. He's now age 32. We've talked about this on the show. Wide receivers that are on the outside, they don't age so gracefully on the outside. When they shift down to the slot, they can kind of last a little bit longer. Usually after 31, the only hope you have is to be a slot receiver, like Keenan Allen, like Adam Thielen, like players like that. Besides that, though, offensive line, really bad. Abraham Lucas, 67th graded from PFF. Oluwadami, not good center. Lincoln Tomlinson has not looked great at left guard, and they've been banged up at the right guard position. Lamia is their starting right guard, 29.4 PFF grade. So if Javon ends up becoming healthy and ends up saying, hey, put me in, coach, I want to play, that could be a phenomenal matchup. That could be phenomenal for Javon to be out there. Otherwise, if we got Zach Pickens and Cohen and Cowart, probably not going to be creating much of that mismatch at that interior of that line. But this could be a gigantic game for Montez Sweat. Being the last game in front of the home fans, hopefully he's able to do at least something. Like I said, Charles Cross is the big person they're going to be running behind. Also, Geno Smith, still looking good, even without Shane Waldron. Turns out Shane Waldron wasn't the thing that made Geno tick. Turns out Geno just learned how to play football. But still, good receivers around him. You know that DK can burn them deep, and also Smith and Jigba, just a very smooth route runner, and has been looking very good these past handful of weeks. So this defense, Kevin Byard has really kind of fallen off. Like, I just don't see the same oomph from him ever since that Matt Eberflus was fired. I just feel like he hasn't been in the right spots. He hasn't been, like, he's been taking bad angles. And maybe it's because it's like, hey, I'm 30 years old and man, I'm spending my time here in Chicago. So let's actually because the defense, not a lot to talk about. Because yeah, I agree with Muck. They've checked out at this point. They really have, because they're like, okay, whatever. It's whatever. If I'm looking at this and saying, what's the matchup to watch out for? It's going to be Kyler Gordon in the slot. Yet again, a very good slot receiver against a good slot corner. So you got Gordon versus Smith and Jigba. Smith and Jigba has been their number one target, their go-to overall, because Noah Fant at tight end. Yet again, I think Noah Fant is one of the most overrated tight ends in the NFL. And just because I said that, he's going to go for 100 yards. But really, I think Fant is incredibly overrated. and Smith and Jigba is a very good slot. It's going to be up to them. It's going to be up to Kyler Gordon to kind of try and lock him down. And then also X Factor. My X Factor is going to be Montez Sweat, because Montez Sweat has a bad matchup this week. Or a good matchup this week, because he should be able to take on Lucas. Abraham Lucas is also a lighter offensive tackle. So hopefully the strength of Montez Sweat can really cause some havoc, cause some problems for Abraham Lucas. That's going to be my X Factor. That's what I feel. But let's flip over to the special teams, and then we'll break down who has the edge. Because on special teams, we're going to be playing in front of everyone at Soldier Field, and I think it might even have to rain. It's going to be a little bit warmer. That's going to be an interesting thing to see. It's just the weather, because as we know, it's wintertime. I think it's going to be a little warmer. I think it might be a little wet and cold. Just kind of miserable conditions. Yet again, they also live in Seattle, so Seattle always dark and dreary too. So it might be very, very similar types of vibes out there. But I think that's going to be the biggest special teams piece to watch out for. Also, is Tyler Scott going to be the kick returner again? Because I'd love to see that. And I'd also love to see Blackwell being the punt returner too, just to see some of these players that might be with the Bears for the next couple of years. What can they do at these special teams positions? Next, who has the edge? And also, Taco Man, what's good? Taco Man out there saying it's going to be a shootout. I hope so. I hope it's at least entertaining, right? I really do hope it's entertaining. Because who has the edge here? If we look at the Bears offense versus this defense, Bears running game, not going to give it to them. I'm going to give that to the Seattle Seahawks. And if we're looking at the Bears passing attack versus this passing defense, this to me is usually one of the closest things that we look at, because Caleb has done well, and he did very, very well against the Lions. But also, too, keep in mind, the Lions were banged up. So to me, I'm going to give this to the Seattle Seahawks. And now when we flip over to the Bears defense versus the offense for the Seahawks, I'm going to give it to the offense for the Seahawks just across the board. Geno's been throwing it well, and their wide receivers have been doing well. And like we talked about before, this Bears defense just really has not been coming to play. So advantage, Seahawks. But now let's go over to the game predictions, because if I feel this way, do I think that the Bears can win? Well, I think if the Bears are going to win, this is the only opportunity that they have. I don't think you're going to be able to beat the Packers at Lambeau Field. I don't think the players are going to be like, all right, you know what, we're going to go. Because even if the backups are out there, I don't think the Bears starters would be like, you know what, we need to whoop the Packers backups. They don't care. They're not going to care anymore. They're not going to worry about that. To me, this is their last opportunity to win. And it's hard to see that team and be like, yeah, they can win. Because they went up against a banged up Lions team and lost by double digits. And we also saw them going against a banged up 49ers team and get absolutely whooped. So now we're at least home, where we play a lot better. But I just don't think that we're going to be able to pull this one off. And I think we're going to see them score another 30 points. I'm going to pull up some of their scores that they've had just to kind of look at this, because last week they went against the Vikings and they put up 24 points and they allowed 27. Then against the Packers, they lost 30-13. And then Cardinals, they win 30-18. They win 26-21 against the Jets, 16-6 against the Cardinals, 20-17 against the 49ers. So they're not destroying teams. Like, yet again, this is just a middle of the road team that you're going against. I'm going to say, actually, you know what? Maybe they don't break 30. I'm going to say 27-20. I'm going to go with that. 27-20. And my bold prediction is going to be, my bold prediction is another 300-yard passing game for Caleb Williams. It's not that bold. It's definitely not that bold. And then also I'll parlay it with a Montez Sweat sack. That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm feeling. So hopefully it ends up coming true. But also Taco Man saying 24-34. Bears, right? Okay. Taco Man saying Bears pull one out. I would love to see that. Even though that it affects our draft position, honestly, it doesn't affect it too much. Because actually, I was just looking at Tankathon. Right now, we have the 9th pick. The worst we can do is 11th. The worst we can do is 11th. And I think like the best is probably like 5 maybe. But it's like really, really, really unlikely if anything like that happens. So we'll see this on Thursday and we'll have you all covered. I'll probably go at the end of the night and just like make sure that we get that live, make sure we get that done. But man, we have so much more show because of the off season coming up. And then we'll get back to all the off season content that I know so much of you love. Like I've said before, I think that we do the off season better than anybody else out there. So if you haven't spent an off season with us, make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube and rate the show 5 stars so you can listen to us as you wrap some Christmas presents. And with that, Merry Christmas to all, an Unbearable Sports Podcast. We are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and